Katie Folger is an actor and a writer from Austin who appears as part of the ensemble cast of Family Portrait, a dreamlike film following a multi-generational Texas family as they attempt to take a group photograph. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Good. I'm sure it is.
It is.
Family Portraits.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
It's really, really, really good.
So you say.
Yeah. Look, it's moving, but I think it's also scary and it's funny and it's really, really weird. And one of the best things about it is the ensemble cast. And it feels like there's a lot of very specific decisions that have gone into that.
Indeed.
And, you know, for you and your fellow castmates, how much were you involved in that? Or did the director march in and go, no, it's exactly like this. Don't you dare move an inch.
Oh, no. We were given so much freedom to play and do strange things. I mean, the whole process was odd. It was not conventional, and I think that's obviously reflected in the product and in the visual language of the film and the impact on the audience. But yeah, nothing about it was what I would call conventional or usual process.
So what was in this bizarre process?
Well, I mean, the way I even came into the project was a bit unusual. I was on vacation. I was in Oaxaca, Mexico, traveling for 3 weeks. It was a 3-week trip, and I was like, I'm not working. No way. I'm not doing anything. And then I get this email 2 days into my trip from the Family Portrait team, and they asked me to be in this movie. And
how many days did you have
to prep?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think I had a week before I got on set. Yeah, I memorized everything on the plane and like in the hotel room. I mean, there was not a lot of time to prepare at all. But they essentially, I wasn't even going to read the script because I was like, I'm really giving myself this time. And then they were like, no, Lucy had a very specific vision of what the family needed to be, and she couldn't get me out of her head, I guess. And so
that's flattering.
It was flattering. Yeah. We've known each other for a long time. I've known her since undergrad at UT Austin. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in Mexico.
Yep.
You get an email, you go get on a plane.
Indeed.
You don't have a drink on the plane because you're learning your lines.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I was actually fleeing a hurricane, so I probably did have a drink on the plane because I was like, I made it back. Yeah, and then I got there, and again, reflected in the final product of the movie, it just kind of felt like we were at summer camp. A lot of people were living on set, so like the space, that property that you see, many people in the film and in the crew were staying there. I was cool. In a Airbnb, like very nearby, but it was an incredibly immersive experience. We didn't really leave. I would say the entire time we were shooting, we didn't really leave. Like we all existed in this space together.
That is definitely reflected in the final film.
Yeah,
because as I say, it feels very, very well lived in. And sometimes that could be the hardest thing to achieve if you're shooting something on an indie budget and you don't necessarily have the most time in the whole world.
Right.
Was there a lot of rehearsing?
Well, I don't really recall a lot of rehearsal as much as really, again, unusual. We would kind of sit down at a table together, kind of some of the key players, not just the actors, but also like a creative producer, the director of photography, sound. We would all sit down together and talk about the scene before we performed it. Like we would all explore ideas about the scene. We would talk about what it reminded us of, like very specific subjective experiences. And then sometimes those funnels of thought would weave their way into the performance, into the portrayal, and into the text. So yeah, and by no sense was this, we did not have a firm, bolded, underlined blueprint script. It was very much a document that gave us elbow room and allowed us to move. But, we still did use text. Like we used the text. We built off of it. It was sort of dreamlike, the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit like I was trying to imagine what the script looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit like trying to imagine what a Robert Altman script looks like or something.
Sure.
And you're like, I don't know. Do you have some of the words just written very small and some of the words written very big?
No. I wish. That would be a fun way for people to start. I'm going to have to do that now. You should do it.
I will. My next Altman-esque epic. Like, you know, are these characters you're playing, this kind of family, this like grand Texan, they seem grand to me, but maybe everyone in Texas has a nice big house.
No.
Is that a type of person that you recognize? Do you know those kind of families?
Oh yeah. Yes. It's like, I mean, you can kind of throw a rock, you know. I mean, there's a lot of money in Texas, a lot of oil money specifically, highly conservative place. People with, large swaths of land and cattle. I mean, it's not the only thing that exists in the state at all, but there's a reason that it's an archetype. Yeah. Because it's true. It's real. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a bit unfair, and I guess I'm just kind of buying hook, line, and sinker into that archetype, but it almost feels like to make a film that the focus is so clearly on nature, but to do it in Texas, where there are certain assumptions about where money comes from, is a kind of political decision. Does that crossed your mind?
Yeah, it is. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think the film is in conversation with that stereotype, and it doesn't display it in a predictable or cliche or stereotypical way. Really, what I think the film does well is it sort of zooms in to the underbelly, like the undercurrents of that kind of dynamic and lifestyle. And very specifically, like I think the film does well in that it's also highly specific. So it doesn't really operate in generalizations. I think you can't help but speak a little meta when you're talking about family portrait, because it is a portrait of a family. But that's kind of there's a juxtaposition at play of this kind of, I think, macro zoomed out general idea of what it's like this image is supposed to be. And then it zooms in and gets kind of, it looks at these people in a more microscopic way.
But it does so in a very human way. It's real conversations about kind of interesting things. They're quite strange conversations, sometimes quite unsettling conversations, lots of kind of violence and broken bodies and that type of thing. But it's not just like have a conversation about how I'm off to buy a new bolo tie.
Right.
Or like, let's go shoot a cow.
Yeah.
So there's real subtlety there.
Yeah, it's not like that either. No, like it is and it isn't, and in Texas, I mean, obviously the world has there are a lot of ideas about what Texas is and.
Sure, but it's like I'm from London, I'm not a chimney sweep.
Right, exactly. Yes, thank you. And it's like, I'm from Texas and I'm not a cowgirl. As much as I wish
maybe one day. Let's not close that opportunity just now.
Yeah, thank you.
Do your family take large family portraits? Is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, actually, but my parents are not.
Sounds like hell to me.
They're not from Texas.
Oh, okay.
But I still think I grew up in Texas largely. But yes, there is I love my mother very much, but there is a bit of an obsession with capturing images in our family. Yeah. Christmas cards. Yeah.
Is it like themed cards? Like
we've never done a theme. Well, okay. There will be perhaps a dress code. Everybody needs to wear a certain color, a certain sort of like print. What
kind of print?
Yeah. Like, there's like many.
Leopard print?
I wish. Yeah. That would be fun. That would be more fun. I kind of get in trouble sometimes because I try to offer a bit of a more creative interpretation of the.
That's not what we're here to do. We're here to take a nice photograph for Granny.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homogeny all the way.
Yeah, exactly. You can do all your weird stuff in Austin, but when you're here with the family at Christmas, you behave yourself.
No, devastating. I can't do it.
I'm interested to know, with something as kind of tonally various as this, and I really do think it is, even though there is an underlying kind of sense of terror that kind of charges through it. When you first saw it, were you surprised by it? Or okay, you were, you're nodding.
I could not expect a thing. I mean, I was talking to another podcast before I came and they were asking me questions about the movie. And I was like, I have to be completely honest with you. I do not know what I'm about to watch because we made it in such an unusual way. I just felt, I've worked on like a lot of different film projects. And like I said, this was definitely more of an outlier when it comes to the way that we made it. Sure. It was not conventional. And because of that, I was not certain what it was going to be. But I think when we watched it, and many of us in the cast have talked about this, it made complete sense. Like then when we saw it, we were like, oh, that's what we were making. Because I think it's hard to even speak about. It was very much like a hive mind project. I even think Lucy herself, she gave herself, like, I don't think all of the sentences were finished, metaphorically speaking. Like, sure. I don't think she didn't have like a declarative statement, like, I'm coming in and I'm making this kind of movie. Like, it was everyone had room to like just be and meander. So I think everybody's been somewhat surprised at what it is, but it makes complete sense.
Well, I suppose there's probably no form of it that wouldn't be surprising.
Correct. I suppose, no, but then some of this movie specifically, yes. But then I watch other movies that like I've been in and it's like exactly the thing. Okay. It's the shot, it's over the shoulder, it's everybody's hitting. There's no air between the lines, like, very by the book.
Which type of film's funner to make?
This one.
Yeah. Okay. It was an obvious answer.
Yeah. This. I love doing weird shit. It's my preference. Yeah. Yeah,
fair enough. Speaking of meandering, I'm sorry to get so into the weeds on this movie. I just really like it. The final scene when effectively our protagonist is walking through looking like she's from Carrie, covered in pond scum, and everyone's just like la-di-da-di-doo-di-da-di-dee.
Yeah.
Like if you try and get too prescriptive about something, you destroy it, but still, whatever. Nevertheless, how did you interpret that? Are they existing in different places? Is someone dead? Have we just gone totally metaphysical? Does it not matter?
That's what I say.
I know, but that's the boring answer.
Okay, fine. You want me to make something up that's more interesting? Okay, I think it's about frogs and human, the imminent nature of death. And no, I don't think any of that. I don't. I think it's I always say the word like liminal with this movie.
Sure.
I just think it exists in a liminal space. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess since you keep on asking me what my interpretation is, I'll tell you. I just kind of assume that that just at this point it just becomes a film about anxiety, and how difficult it is for other people to see.
Okay.
To see and identify that in other people, even if it feels like it's very obvious for you. Even if you're there going, I'm crying for goddamn help here. Why can't anyone see? It's actually really complicated and difficult because everyone's wrapped up in stuff.
Totally.
Did you guys realize it was going to be funny? Because I straight up laughed like out loud like 4 or 5 times.
I kind of identify as like a comedic performer, comedic writer, comedic artist, but like I don't write jokes. I only started kind of identifying as that because other people told me that I was funny. It's like I'm not trying to be funny. What I write isn't trying to be funny. So often I think the most disturbing things can end up being very funny. Like they are funny. Yeah. It's a way to cope with discomfort and uncertainty. And so I think, I'm not surprised that there are funny moments in the movie because the whole film is it's a bit absurd. It's a bit
satirical.
Yeah.
I think. You're a writer and you've written a one-woman show.
Yes.
I want to get the name right. Getting in Bed with the Pizza Man.
Yeah.
Based on a true story?
I don't answer that question.
Okay. Yeah. Fine, fair enough. But tell me about the show.
The show is, I call it a jump down a rabbit hole of beginner's sexual empowerment. It's a woman who's essentially I guess we're all a lot of stories are dealing with pandemic aftermath. And so post-COVID, this woman goes on a sort of a love tryst trip, and things go awry, and makes a lot of, not even a lot, makes some important discoveries about herself and her understanding of herself as a woman, and her sexuality, and how to communicate. But it's really through the lens of making a bunch of mistakes. Yeah. That's
the way life tends to go. Was it a COVID project? What kind of drove you to write it? Was it something you'd always had an urge to do?
I've been a writer my whole life. Kind of what I say is I've been too shy to share my work with people until I got older. Yeah. And it's I've honestly written about sex I love writing about sex. It's my favorite thing to write about. And even when I was younger, and I think I was very self-conscious about that, being raised in a very conservative family, mostly in Texas, and going to church and whatnot. And then as I got older, I just think I stopped caring. And so, yeah, this was a short story I wrote. It was originally prose, 30 pages. Wrote it a couple summers ago after it is based on, I call it memoir style fiction. Sure. It's based on truth that I contort to make into a more cohesive arc or whatever. But I wrote it kind of, as a writer, I kind of just, everything kind of comes onto the page pretty quickly. And then I edited it off and on for a couple years. And then I experimented with it on a few audiences. And that's how I started to realize that it worked, as I just read it in front of an audience of 25 colleagues and friends in my backyard in November 2021, and people laughed the whole time, didn't know it was a comedy. and from there it started to evolve.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you say there's a journey of empowerment. I mean, the act of writing a one-woman show is, in some ways, it's an act of empowerment, because you're grasping all responsibility for yourself. Yeah,
precisely. It's been an incredibly fulfilling journey as an artist. It's been my favorite thing that I've done yet, for this very reason, just because there's it's a bit of a haughty word, but I do feel like there's a bit of we're getting a little philosophical here, but I feel like there's a bit of a spiritual alchemy that comes when you are bringing these words, they're coming from your soul, and then you're embodying them and speaking them in front of an audience. That's a very,
alchemy is the right word.
Yeah, you're aligning. You're literally embodying your internal reality for other people, and then you're exchanging that with them, and that's a very intimate thing to do.
Scary though, I would have thought.
Terrifying.
That first read must have been a nightmare.
It wasn't so bad the first time, but the first show I was in May in Austin, it was terrifying, but in a really good way.
Do you have a director?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That would be crazy, actually.
I had a team. A one-woman show is not a one-woman show. It's 20. It's it ends up being, it's a play just like any other, or a production. But yeah, I had a director. His name is Matrix Kilgore. He also went to UT Austin. Lucy knows him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's it ends up kind of being a small world.
What's the creative scene like in Austin these days? 'Cause I used to go a long, long time ago back to the music festival, and it was my favorite place in the world. But I understand the scale of it has blown up so dramatically. Yep. And then the film festival's blown up so dramatically that it's more mainstream.
Yeah.
I assume it's not quite the same as it once was.
No, it is not the same. So I feel, the funny thing is, Austinites get pretty, can get pretty pretentious and a little grumpy, curmudgeonly with all these people moving in. Sure. A lot of tech people, especially from California, have moved there.
But they did such a cool job with San Francisco.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of that magic.
No, our rents have gone through the roof. There's just a lot more, obviously, a lot more traffic. It's, we all kind of say RIP Austin. It's not the same anymore. It's kind of what was is dead. But there are still artists that have been there for a really long time that are still there. And so, that's part of the disappointment, the heartbreak of a city becoming larger. Things are going to become a bit more diluted. It's not going to, the identity of the city can't be as concentrated, but it's still there. It's just, there's more around it. And there's a lot of people that have moved in that this is maybe the most heart-wrenching thing is that people don't really care. And some people care, but I would say most people don't. And so me and my community, there is a strong independent identity. There's a lineage of filmmakers that I'm kind of like, I'm like a part of this kind of community of artists, and they've been there for years, like since the 80s. And I've learned from them essentially. So it's kind of, cool. It is cool. It's honestly, I sort of feel like I got to see Austin before it was completely commercialized and taken over by the tech boom. And so in that sense, I do feel a bit of a responsibility to like keep the spirit alive and keep the flame.
Baby.
Yeah, keep the flame burning. So in my own work, I like strongly identify as like being an Austin artist. And I'm really proud of that because I think the filmmakers there are doing a lot of, I don't know, they just don't, I actually really love this festival. I've never been. It's so cool to be here because I actually feel that in like my small community in Austin and like what I like about it, I'm seeing in communities from all over the world for the first time.
It's inspiring, isn't it? To kind of bump into like, I don't know, 20 young Spaniards who've just kind of made a movie and go, I don't know what a film festival is, but I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. And I prefer work that operates like that. Like it doesn't, I don't know. Of course, there's ego present in the art house film world too. I mean, there's ego present everywhere. But I like work that's not trying to follow the rules, I suppose. And I feel like that's kind of, Austin filmmakers they kind of make stuff that doesn't really like fit in line with a lot of other American work. And it's just been nice to see here as well, from people all over the world.
It's cool. It gives me a sense of hope about the future of cinema and
Same.
art and culture and stuff.
Same.
I'm like, maybe we can just leave like London and LA to make their nonsense. And, everyone else around the world can go around doing interesting, cool things and helping one another out.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like utopic in that way. I feel the same way. I was actually really depressed about film before I got here because of what's going on in the States and just feeling like pretty like gross about what's been. I mean, I have for a long time, and I honestly have, in America, you do feel this bit of a pressure to conform and kind of fit yourself in line with what Hollywood wants you to be. And I never really wanted to do that. And I've always sort of questioned that about myself. I'm like, well, do I just want to separate myself from something that I don't feel accepted by? Or like, is that me trying to make
defensive? Yeah.
But no, I'm actually like, this is just like the type of artist that I am. And that's like totally okay. And
much cooler.
Well, I mean, if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. But I agree. I like it. I like it this way a bit better, because it's something I say too is there are very few, at least in Western society, there are very few places that as human beings we can have meaningful ritual, like where we can really gather intentionally, like all in space and like meet one another and be authentic and genuine. And it's just, we don't have, especially in like an increasingly digitalized world, we don't get to like be with one another in community. And I think
it does make a difference.
Why I like film is because it allows us to participate in these familiar rituals,
Well, thank you for participating in this podcast.
Thank you. It's truly my pleasure.
Good.